2, 1, roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Simon Severino, your host. And my guest today is a retired IT executive with 35 years experience. Prior to that, he served the KGB as an illegal undercover agent in the US. We will go deep into how we can ensure a sound corporate culture and what we as the leaders can do to improve the bottom line. Welcome, everybody, Jack Barsky.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's the first time I'm greeted with applause. Thank you.
We are all so excited here. And
all of you.
all of us. And Jack, how are you doing? What are you currently working on?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So I got my fingers in about 5 different things that have not yielded results. And my what I do most of the time these days is to the extent I get invitations, I speak in public. And you know I have a contract with the U.S. government to participate in the training, joint counterintelligence training of the armed forces. So that keeps me busy, but that doesn't fill up my time. Neither does it take care of my 12-year-old's college fund. So I'm involved in 5 other things that have not yet started. 4 of which are in the entertainment industry. And one is an IT startup, which is interesting enough to talk about to fill the whole segment here, but I don't want to focus on that. So I'm busy, and that's good because I'm busier than I was when I was paid by some company to show up 9 to 5 and sit around in meetings. This is the life that I should have had from day one. But growing up under communism, the entrepreneurial spirit is killed off in you. When I came to the United States, I didn't think of, like taking that freedom and running with it. I sought the safety of a company as an employee, and that happened to be an insurance company that felt like I'm back in it was in the early 80s. I'm back in East Germany where they take care of you and promise you, just, be a good boy and you can retire with a gold watch. My God, that they changed dramatically. But when I entered and so, entrepreneur, my daughter, my older daughter, who's 35, is an entrepreneur through and through. And, she inherited my free spirit, my contrarian attitude, I have everything that it would have taken to become an entrepreneur, but not the heart for it, because that was killed off by communism.
Most people listening here are entrepreneurs. They are running small businesses,
Yeah.
medium-sized businesses, but they have never experienced a war. How did the experience of being in the KGB, of being in a war, inform who you are today as a leader, as an entrepreneur?
Well, let me start answering. It is relevant. It's part of the answer, but you didn't ask the specific question. I watched a few of your videos on YouTube, and in one of them you excuse me, you give a definition of sprint, and I love it because you're talking about sprint is not about speed, it's about focus. And so I'm comparing this. I'm still out there jogging. When I'm jogging, I'm not focused on putting my 2 feet in front of each other. I'm constantly thinking about something else. So I'm not focused. This is the opposite of a sprint. I used to like run track and field. When you are starting the 100 meters, there's nothing else that comes to mind. You just run. So, and here's the parallel with regard to my operations as an agent. Every time, and I give it I call it something different, but it's the same as a sprint. Every time there was a difficult operation ahead, or something I was concerned about, like crossing borders or uh, meeting an agent in a third country and then becoming another person because you got different documentation. So everything where you have focus on executing something perfectly, I called it execution mode because I would I would deliberately ban every thought, every emotion from my brain and only focus what to do next to get that thing done. And so I think a successful entrepreneur, that the way you describe him, has got to act the same way. Get going and focus. And sometimes you go in the wrong direction. That's okay. It's better than not going. It's better than pontificating and just exchanging words and dreaming. Because I've been meeting so many dreamers now that I'm in an unstructured environment, and so many people who will tell you, "I will do this, and we will do that, and we should do this," and nothing ever happens because they just don't have the ability to go into a sprint and at least get the first thing done, and then keep on going and going. So that's another long answer to a short question.
Thank you. And now that you are building your next ventures, how do you pick the right people? How do you ensure that the culture on your team is as you want it to be?
All right, Sarah. This is going to be an answer that some people may not want to hear, particularly not management consultants. Um, so when the KGB hired people like me, they were primarily looking for character traits that are already uh, resident in the candidate. And this is called the nature element. What you were sort of what you were given at birth, such as a very functioning brain, an independent spirit, and a lot of things that you can maybe go towards a little bit, but if you don't have them, you don't have them. If you're born with instinctive fear of everything you're doing, you cannot become a let me everything I say has an exception, okay? Everything does. Like somebody really, really dramatic moments in your life can change you gra- massively. But let's get to the culture. It starts with you being a decent human being. Okay, it starts with you being a humble human being. There's a number of notes that I took where I would focus what I would focus on. First of all, and that's taken out of the book From Good to Great by Jack Collins. That's my favorite business saying: "Get the right people on the bus." So don't surround yourself with ass kissers. Surround yourself with competent, bold individuals who are not afraid to give you an opinion contrary to yours, because if you have the right people on the bus, all you can do is get better and learn. Okay, from as far as the subject matter expertise, that's number one. Behavior wise as well. So and here are some of the juxtapositions. Um, get the right people on the bus and create a shared vision. I'm not talking about management by consent, okay, because that will slow you down like you wouldn't believe. I've been in companies like that. But a shared vision. This is where we're going, and then each one of the individuals with the well-defined areas of responsibility will do their part to get there. And as a leader, you don't like hover over them and constantly micromanage and constantly ask them to report how's it going, how's it going, how's it going. Yes, that's important, but don't sit on people. It will suffocate them, and it will reduce their creativity. So you got to have a culture of trust. It's very important. And as most of us know, that trust is very difficult to build. It takes time because you have to show that you can be trusted. You have to show that you or your word is always good. And God forbid, if you change your mind, you let everybody know why you're doing this. because there's changing circumstances. But that's called integrity. So if you got to build an atmosphere of trust versus fear. And I spent my corporate life in six different companies. A couple of them, one was small, one was mid-sized, and the other four were pretty large. And fear is in those companies. Fear was a driving factor for a lot of management decisions, and they will invariably be wrong or just grind you to a halt. I've had situations, and particularly in utilities, and I'm sure the folks that are listening to your program are most likely they are either extremely disgruntled utilities employees or they're not. But we had situations where we needed permission for everything, and I was in charge of information technology, and I went to a senior vice president. He was like right under the CEO, and I asked for permission, and he delegated the decision back down to us because he was afraid to make it. So humility is important, and so this there's this aura about in the public discourse in the media about those hero CEOs, the ones that are greater than big life. And it started, I think, to at least in my memory, with Jack Welch. Well, Jack Collins proved that Jack Welch wasn't that great as far as the bottom line of GE was concerned. All right, but he was big, and he still is big. He was the one who rescued GE. Well, he also was very good at begging, pleading, extorting, and all that stuff, and then building himself up. And you know, as much as I like the guy, Elon Musk is a hero CEO, and Donald Trump was a hero CEO, and everybody he doesn't like, he just fired. Uh, that that does not build a sound culture. That will what that does. It will suppress the opinions and the contributions of the ones that you hired to make this thing happen, right? So that's humility is really important, and it's not like being you can be a humble individual and still a great leader. You don't lose authority by saying, you know what, I screwed that one up.
I love this.
That's not a
So you look at the natural element plus what you can help and teach, uh, and the second thing is that you look for particular values and traits that fit your team. I'm also super interested in hearing about your leadership advice. What we can do as a leader to improve the bottom line after one word from our sponsors. What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com. You have seen the biggest leaders in actions. You are a leader building ventures. What is the role of leadership right now?
Well, I tried to answer this before, but let me give it a different angle. So when it isn't just only about the character traits you were born with. It's not. There's a lot of things that can be taught. I just want to warn the listeners or the audience uh, of a lot of charlatans that call themselves management consultants. They are bullshit artists. However, there's one type of management consultant I would highly recommend. They have to be good at it, and it's called communication coaches. Because business leaders, and I have a background in in science, and as a scientist, and then I learned another language. So my communication skills weren't that good. And most and a lot of entrepreneurs are coming out of engineering, information technology, and so forth, and we speak a different language, and we need to be able to communicate not only with the non-technical people in our corporation, but also with our customers. So here's my here's my example. I was a project leader on a very, very large project at Prudential. We were replacing the payroll for close to 100,000 people and a lot of very, very highly paid executives. So that had to be on time and work really well. So I gave an update to senior management for 20 minutes with a PowerPoint presentation. And afterwards, my boss called me in her office, and to her credit, she looked at me and she said the following. I will never forget it. Jack, you suck. That's from your boss. But I knew she loved me, and I know what she meant. And she sent me to there's a Carnegie course out there that teaches communication, and there were, I think, 17 sessions. And every session, every person had to get up and give a mini speech about something. And so that allowed me to reach back in here and remember that I actually wasn't that bad in German. And so from then on, I took every opportunity to say something in front of a crowd. And now I can stand up in front of 10,000 people and talk because there's no more fear. And but that particular moment was important. I didn't have a dedicated communications coach because all I needed was like that push in the right direction. But communication is so important, and particularly, and you may know this as well as I do, the English language is very, very fuzzy. German is precise. It's less. There's less likelihood that you misunderstand because the words have just one narrowly defined meaning. In English, there are synonyms for everything. And so you need to learn how to speak the language of your audience rather than your own. And I think that is so critical because it's so easy to be misunderstood.
And I love it that she said, "Jack, you suck," but you heard, "Hey, she loves me and she is showing me what I can do better." So it's
Yeah.
not so much the words; it's a lot about the intention and the
Oh, yeah.
context, right? And basically about our heart when we communicate.
We had a trust relationship at that point already. We had worked together for a year, and she she really delegated competence where it wasn't. The technical competence was mine. She didn't have it. She was a project manager and a highly focused leader, mostly focused on her career, but that sort of coincided with the job that she had to do in the company. So it worked out really well.
But communication is key. And I'm curious about your experience. One thing that I see is that communication is a lot of miscommunication. We talk to each other, but we don't really close the loop. And many times something else reaches the other side than what we actually wanted to say.
Yeah,
And also nowadays, whatever the company is that we are running, we are a media company. If we want it or not, we
yeah,
are a media. We have to learn copywriting. We have to learn getting a message across.
yeah.
I find it quite hard and challenging, also very creative and very rewarding. And I'm learning so much. But I'm curious about your experience with this. What did you learn about communication from your experience?
Well, I got to repeat it. Uh, the, you need to learn, and as an individual, you need to learn a number of different languages and speak them. So when you go when you go talk to your CFO, you talk numbers. When you go to HR, you talk fuzzy things. The next company outing or stuff like that. What gets them excited. That way, you are in the same territory, and less likelihood of misunderstanding or completely not understanding one another. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bosses that only know one language, and that's the language of narcissism. And that one you don't really want to feed. You just want to get out.
You were recently on one of my favorite podcasts, on Lex Friedman's podcast.
I figured,
How
yeah, I thought.
how did that experience change you or change your week?
So I have, since I came out of the closet, I've been interviewed probably a couple of hundred times, and half of those were like cable TV, those short segments of when they ask you one question, and then you have 5 minutes to answer the question and so forth. And I usually, when I'm on those programs, after the 5 minutes, I'm totally exhausted. I sat with Lex for 5.5 hours, and when we were done, I could have started over again. It was so relaxing. It's the fellow. That was the best interview I've ever had, and that includes the 60 minutes, because he knows how to make you comfortable, which is a good start to get stuff out of you that you would normally not share. Okay, because if you're on edge, you're protecting yourself. There was no protection necessary. And I wasn't aware that there were like altogether by now there are about 3 million people listening to this. It was just me and him having a conversation. And the other talent he has is he knows how to allow his interviewees breathe. And I already indicated, and you already had a couple of examples. You can get me going, and I'm going to talk for 10 minutes, and he allowed that. And then he would find, when it was time to redirect, the fellow is a phenomenal interviewer, and obviously he also goes pretty deep. And he asked me a question at the very end. That I think the question was, "Are you afraid of dying?" And that was the first time I was asked that question in public, and I couldn't help but be honest about it, because as a believing Christian, I'm supposed to not be afraid, but that is not the case. So here we're talking about, when you communicate with your employees, particularly one-on-one with your customers, just let them breathe, let them relax. You will get more of them, because the majority of people that I met in business somehow protect some truths that they think should not come out.
I love this.
And
And for the people listening, if you want to hear that, it's the Lex Friedman podcast, episode 301, and 3 hours 33 minutes in, they talk about mortality. 3 hours and 33 minutes if you want to jump there. And I think this is really related, thank you for bringing this up, to two things that we discussed at the beginning. One is hero CEO versus enabler CEO, and
yeah,
one is also the communication aspect. So, for example, I do my prayers and my yoga every day, because otherwise, if I don't do that a couple times a day, I identify myself with this little meat here, with this body, and then of course. That cannot run a global company. Come on. So
no, you speak my language here, definitely. Exactly. I could just what you just said. I'm identical in my attitude towards self. I'm a little taller than you.
So the question about mortality is maybe the leadership practice number one, to shortly have a practice, a daily practice, where you feel the eternal you, and not just the body you, the current you, but the eternal side of you. Because if we can let go of this ego and body for a moment, we are probably much more in tune with the greater intelligence of our team, with the greater intelligence of our community, our society, our surroundings,
Yeah.
and that's who we are here to serve.
We are asked to die unto ourselves, which will make us greater in the long term. Here's a thought that I had while you were talking. Uh, when we're talking about startups or young companies, I think it one aspect that needs to be addressed. You need to have some kind of a mission that is beyond making money. That that and everybody and people in that organization need to buy into that mission. So, for instance, that startup I'm involved in, we're going to operate in cyberspace, and actually um, being offensive, not defensive. Now
Mm.
that requires some ethical values, okay? Because there's always and one of our ex members actually violated them, and he's now spending time in jail.
Mm.
But you can do good with the same tool as you can do very evil. And then obviously, in order for that goal to be come closer, and you be able to reach that goal, you need to have a profitable bottom line, or else this is capitalism, or else you can't exist. That's a foundational thing. So you need to, when you, a while ago you asked a question, and I was thinking as one of the answers, uh, you need to manage by the numbers, and you need to be honest with your numbers, uh, period. Because if the numbers are off and are not reflecting reality, before you know it, you can't do what you had set out dreaming to do.
I love this. Reality is both a numerical thing and also a more qualitative things where you look at the dashboards. We have a weekly dashboard, and some people say, wow, but that's too much. Weekly marketing number, weekly sales number, weekly ops number, come on. And I say, yeah, otherwise I'm flying blind. I don't want to fly blind. This is a ship with people on it.
Yeah,
this is real. Their families rely on this, okay? So we are responsible. And as you say, we are powerful, and so we want to use it in an intentional way. So we want to know what is the reality right now of our activities and of all the things that we do, what is actually happening. So which numbers are going up and which aren't, and which are going down. Because otherwise, what do we base our decisions upon? About narratives? So, like, I can dream of Elon being the biggest, the best strategists, and then, yeah, maybe that's just a narrative and I'm making up. So, where are the numbers that tell me, yes, this is the current reality?
right. That's I agree with you 100%. And one other thing that I'm not I'm on right now. I'm the CEO of me. And while I was working for the KGB, I was pretty much also the CEO of me, because I I didn't have a team that helped me make decisions. I had to make all the decisions by myself. Uh, so I've never been at the top of a company. But if I were, I would encourage and maybe even request, or make every employee reflect on how they, particularly in their very job, can contribute, will contribute to the bottom line of the company. Some of them have direct contributions, some of them are indirect. And particularly, I am very concerned with the power that HR has amassed in many places. Uh, I have worked with some really good HR people, but most of them don't know what the heck they're doing, and they're checking the box, and They are cheerleading, and they are very often in the way of making good hiring decisions. Uh, yeah, Jack Welch was known to, put HR like very much at the top of the hierarchy. I don't know how good HR was, but I just know this one thing that the 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 saga that every year and GE got rid of the bottom 10%. That was an outright lie. I met ex-CE employees. Okay, that did never happened.
It's funny because it became a thing, right? And many people repeat it
Yeah,
and do it.
yeah. I'm friends with a fellow who was at the time the youngest executive in GE, and this guy is like rock solid, very honest, and he had to leave, and he actually became an entrepreneur because the big companies, they pretty much when you get to a certain level, they own you, and then they put you over there, and then you put you over there, and GE had a lot of foreign assignments, and this fella had family. He said, I gotta be more in charge of my own life and not become a minion. uh,
This is so important for everybody listening right now. We live in a time where it's easy to get your life back and to live a life that is like you need it and your family needs it and your friends need it, and at the same time you can build great stuff and you can build teams and you can be impactful. So is it correct you would start your entrepreneurial journey even earlier now, knowing what you know now?
Me, yeah. I would be, obviously she's my daughter, so we have an age difference, but I would be right there with her because as she uh, has her boyfriend is big time in real estate, and he got a college degree and then did not join a company. He just jumped right into real estate, and he co-owns three different companies. It's not just brokerage; it's he's flipping houses, and he's investing in real estate. And so every time I hear them talk about all this stuff, what you can do, and I say, "Oh my God!" And one of them, she has a dream to. There's an older building, an abandoned church, and they think that they can eventually buy it and make it into a sanctuary for animals because my daughter's
Mm.
an animal lover. Now that can make a little money too. It will be a nonprofit, but it's fulfilling, and it will create employment for a number of people and make some profits as well. A nonprofit, it you can pay yourself a salary. So uh, anyway, so this this is I've always was looking for meaning in life, and when my corporate career finished, and the meaning I had working for corporate is to provide for my family. Okay, I had two families, and they were entirely dependent on me. But when I left corporate, I was able to pursue a whole bunch of other things that are much more fulfilling. I've been mentoring college students. I've been speaking in high schools, churches, and at business meetings pro bono. And then when the organization has some money, I will ask to be paid because you you got to eat, right? But and this is me making my own decisions. And so if it fails, who do I have to blame? Only me. And even if others have contributed to the failure, it's meaningless for me to point to them because I don't change them. I can change me. I can learn my own lessons, and I still do. By the way, speaking of learning, very very important in this day and age, and we know already IT is operating at a incredible speed, and then we have disruptors like COVID, right? And if you don't learn, if you're not flexible, if you're not open to new ideas, if you can't change on a dime, you may look failure in the eyes. You cannot say, well, I know what I'm doing because it worked yesterday and it will work tomorrow. Well, the basic principles may, but your approach to the business may not.
Let's talk about your books. You are a prolific writer, and there are different things that we can listen to, that we can watch, that we can read. One comment on one of your books I found very interesting. It says, boring, there is no action here. And then somebody else answers and says, wait a moment, I'm working since 20 years in intelligence. You guys don't understand that the real work of intelligence, 99% is not action. So which book
Yes.
should we pick next? And how much action is in there?
You want me to recommend spy books? And I
Yours.
wrote only one book, and that's my memoir. But I also have a whole bunch of essays on my website, and some of them have to do with leadership. That but the best spy books are actually, in my view, nonfiction. And there's a British author, Ben McIntyre, who sells up to 1 million copies of his books. He's very good. He's writing biographies of famous spies, and the probably one of the most famous spies in history is Kim Philby. He was MI6, and he was Cambridge educated, upper class, and joined MI6 and became the head of the section that operated against the Soviet Union. And every time that MI6 had a plan to roll out, the KGB knew about it. And so he actually managed to flee and not get arrested. And that biography is called A Spy Among Friends. It's just phenomenal. And, in the espionage world, everybody who has been an operative, that means out in the field, not an analyst, not in the office, will have interesting stories to tell. They all, because we're dealing with your own self. You get to know yourself very well in the process, and you're operating with other people all the time. It's all about influencing people, like the Carnegie book, right? How to win friends and influence people. By the way, as an aside, I never got any psychological training. I never talked to a psychologist who either trained me or just analyzed me in the KGB. But one day, one of my liaisons, or somebody who had been active in the U.S. as a diplomat slash KGB agent, he came into my apartment and he threw that book in front of me. Says, and that's the Carnegie book. Read that, and it's totally relevant because and it's relevant to all of us because we on a daily basis, we whether we are aware of it or not, we influence people in some way so that they help us, in making a step in the right direction because maybe we need their help or we want their help. And uh, and that's not manipulation. Influencing is something else. You put ideas out and hopefully that they buy into those ideas. And this is again where communication is critical. You have to be able to uh, clearly enunciate, formulate what you're after. And the worst thing is in this situation, the worst character trait you can display is passive aggressiveness, because then that will just confuse everybody because you never say what you mean.
Totally. And I'm still thinking about the mortality thing. Am I afraid to die? Yes, in some hours more than in others. In which hours the least? Well, either directly after a meditation or a prayer, but also in a day where I went fully in, meaning that I didn't hedge. I didn't save anything for later or whatever you want to call it, right? When I jump full in, into what I feel that is the right thing to do, it's just a little bit, it takes a bit of courage and vulnerability. Okay, but I'm doing it. I'm not going away from this. I'm facing it. I'm starting something. On such a day, I'm less afraid to die, because if it's over now, I did it. I did have a wild ride. I didn't hedge.
Yeah.
I took my
You
shot.
yes, and I'm thinking along the same lines, uh, and I tell people who sort of now they are my generation is in retirement, quote unquote, but younger people do not focus on retirement. You and I know contemporaries of mine who are retired from life, and eventually when it times to go, they might just think this really nasty sentence: "I could have been a contender," and I am not finished. I have things to do. I have a reason to get up in the morning and do what I do, partially because I love doing it and I have to be active, but partially because I got a 12-year-old, and I'm going to share something I have not shared in public yet. I will get remarried. My ex-wife just divorced me a while ago, and I'm looking forward to a loving
Okay.
relationship with a new lady in my life. And so I have a lot of stuff to look forward to. And in that context, I'm just focused on getting there. And then today I was reading about the ex pope, being he's 93 years old, I believe, and being probably ready to leave the earth. And I'm saying, if I get to that point and I achieved all the things had dreamed of, I think the fear will go away. It's just now this concern. Please don't allow me another whatever. But I'm just not finished. I'm not finished, and also because I started late in life when I stopped spying. I became a normal human being, and I discovered all my feelings, and I discovered the most important feeling that I believe that in a person's life, and that's love. And last week, a friend of mine sent me a letter which was mind blowing. I'm reading this. It's written by Albert Einstein, and there's a
Mm.
paragraph. He's just about a couple of years before leaving the earth. That's written to his daughter Lisa, who he regretted not to have loved enough. And somewhere in the middle, there's a paragraph that says, "And there's the greatest force in the universe has four letters, LOVE, love," and that's Albert Einstein.
Mm.
So, and I'm there with him, and and so when I say I started over, this started after I left the KGB, or right at that time, and so and that makes me feel better about myself. That gives me an incentive to improve and just love people the way they should be loved. It doesn't mean you cannot despise them. Okay, there are a lot of people who you maybe you love them as as human being, but you can't love the way they behave. Okay, so that's not in that's they're separate. Love the sinner, hate the sin. Anyway, I digressed again.
I'm looking up one page of our vision as a team, because we also we wrote page 6 of our current vision 2026. Work is love made visible. Khalil Gibran. When I saw that work is love made visible,
I love it.
it really hit me hard, because I love working, I love being here, like I love my kids,
Yeah,
and like I love
yeah.
my life. And for me, work is the chance to serve, is the chance to improve something. So for me, there is not a split between working, loving, playing. It's all one. It's all one, actually. So when you say the driver of the universe is love, I say yes, totally. It's service, it's love, it's connection, right? What else? This is the base energy or the base material, if you
Yeah.
want, of all we do.
And and I have never had occasion to use the phrase "Thank God it's Friday."
Hmm.
And if you have a job that you don't like, if it makes you miserable, you need to get out. Because and I actually I encouraged a number of people. A couple of them were my direct reports to leave the company because we couldn't. We there was no fit. We couldn't get them what they needed to thrive, and it worked out. It says you got to go, but don't tell upper management. That would be betrayal. But that's the way to work. You want people uh, in your company that love coming to work, that love everybody else, that have a passion for what they're doing, and never complain, and also never uh, don't change personalities based on where they are, like the one at home and the one at work, because a lot of people think they have to play act.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, that, and this is not a anti-woman statement. I love women. I've always loved girls, women, and so forth, and the females. But because corporations are still primarily male driven, there's women who think they need to like act like males. That is voluntarily giving up your strength as a human being, and then try to be somebody else. And there's men that come in, and when at home they're like nice people, and then they come into the office and they're like, look who I am. No, don't you know who I am? So I need a little respect here. That's puffing themselves up. Don't play roles. Be yourself. You need to be your authentic self, because everything else people will smell and act accordingly. Then they will not open up to you, and so the whole thing is the whole enterprise will be burdened by a bunch of failed miscommunications, and it's really not what we call um, a shared vision. Then everybody's out for themselves and their own careers, and you know I can see the way you talk and your message. Uh, I would I would love to be a member of your company, and I know it would work really well. And nowadays I have a choice, and I'm hoping that our startup will get going, and uh, I won't be the CEO simply because I have no experience in the startup world, but I will be instrumental in building the team because of my long history of watching people. I really am pretty darn good at assessing individuals, sometimes just with a phone call. The basics. Okay, I can't guess whether they like the Dallas Cowboys or Dortmund München or München Mönchengladbach or whatever they call it. But whether they're a good fit in terms of basic attitude and personality. So and I would actually be a pretty damn good management consultant in the HR space, but I don't want to do it. I want to do what I'm doing now.
And it's beautiful what you're building and what you're doing. How can we be part of the journey? Where can we find your book?
Well, the book is available on Amazon. It's called Deep Undercover, uh, and I this book has been out for 4.5 years, and it has a 4.6 rating on Amazon, which beats Harry Potter by a percentage point. Harry Potter is 4.5. Now
Yeah.
she sold a lot more books, right? But I get excellent feedback, and again, this is not because I'm the greatest writer on the planet, because it's teamwork. Okay, I had a consultant, a person who became my friend, who is a published novelist, and she taught me. she taught me how to write a memoir so that it will flow. I wrote it as a stream of consciousness, like a long diary. This is what happened, and
Mhm.
that. And she says, no, you need to break it up. You need to have scenes. You need to paint an atmosphere. You need to just show. You need to allow the reader to put themselves into your shoes, and that
Mhm.
worked really well. And then we had a really good editor, and editors don't get credit enough for good books because they
Mhm.
are key. He cut about 35 pages of the manuscript, and as a result, and this is the biggest compliment I get, this thing reads like a novel. It flows, and there's a lot of people who said I couldn't put it down. So if you're a reader, it you will like this book. I guarantee you, pretty much. It's not a big money maker for me anymore. I made about $100,000, and that took a whole year to do so. I made more money in a year showing up 9 to 5 in my last job, but that was obviously a passion of mine. It was a lot of fun.
Deep
People are asking me if
undercover,
I.
my secret life entangled allegiances as a KGB spy in America.
That's correct. Thank you. And we still working on possibly creating a miniseries based on this story in my book, and that would be fictionalized to some degree, but you don't have to fictionalize a lot because my I I'm not responsible for my life. I didn't think of it. I didn't create it. I just stumbled around, and what happened? I reacted to the people that made suggestions or pushed me in a certain direction, and I reacted to events, but I never really did a long term plan for my life. And a lot of people that I know that had these phenomenal careers. They started as entrepreneurs. They planned ahead of time and they focused on those various sprints. Just that wasn't me. Fundamentally, I played life. I didn't take anything seriously. I just like, let's see what happens here. Oh wow, interesting. I'm a little more deliberate these days, again, because we talked about mortality, we talked about fulfilling a mission, and we talked about living your life, uh, so so that you actually can say, you know what, in the end, I became a happy person.
Hmm.
And speaking of happiness, I just got to get rid of this one. Uh, Again, it's something that it popped into my head the other day. And then a week later, I found that a much smarter person than me, I forgot a philosopher, said the same thing. The ability to laugh at yourself, to make fun of yourself, is absolutely critical. It's a critical element to achieving happiness in life. Because if you can make fun of yourself, that means you become invulnerable. Whatever other people think of you, whatever, you already know what you messed up.
I love
And I do
this.
it all the
Yeah.
time. I'm talking to myself. I said, "What an idiot! This was wrong." But then you go on. Don't make the same mistake twice, right?
Same here. If I watch like a video of me 5 years ago, I go, Simon, why are you so grumpy? Why are you so tense? Come on, let go of
Yeah,
the intensity. Yes, it's serious, but it's not that serious, right? And do we want to be around people who are laughing? Or do we want
yeah,
to be around people who
yeah.
are super grumpy and totally obsessed?
Oh, I know these atmospherics are phenomenal. I just moved to Texas, like it's now probably 4 months ago, and it's the first time that I actually uh, am in this state and interacting with Texans. And at least where I live, they're all happy.
Hmm.
They they walk around with a smile on their face.
Hmm.
You can engage them, and so when it, and I've yet to see anybody arguing in public. In other parts of the country,
Hmm.
it happens a lot,
Hmm.
and and people getting angry with their kids and all this. None of that. And so when I go out into the world, it's a really good feeling, and that helps you even get better internally as well as how you interact with others. So yeah, I totally discovered the value of positive emotions, and it was a real long detour, but I got there,
This is
and
beautiful.
I'm staying there.
Jack Barsky, everybody, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience, even your tactics on how you look at people, how you think about corporate culture, how you build ventures, and what leadership is right now. Please, Jack, come back soon when your ventures are in the next stage. We want to be part of the journey.
Okay.
And thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Tell me when we're off.
Hey, if you love what you are hearing, you will love our free masterclasses. Go grab them at strategysprints.com.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategies.